want to start out by thanking you for letting me present my business today. It's really kind of interesting because I noticed that I've met a lot of these people through other different functions, and so I shouldn't be so nervous because I've met you all one way or another at one time during this process. As I said, my name is David Williams. I've been in Gainesville for my entire life. I've been a nurse for about 17 years, and I spent about the last 7.5 years prior to starting this business working for Shands as a clinical liaison, as well as working for the VA hospital. When I was a clinical liaison, I kind of found out that I found myself in the doctor's office trying to give him information a lot of times with patients. And so everybody here who's been in the doctor's office waiting around, kind of raise your hand. What's the worst thing besides actually going to the doctor? All that paperwork. So what we're trying to do is I actually found out by going into these doctor's offices, I saw this huge problem. I saw patients walking inside the doctor's office. They didn't have their information. They were basically handed a clipboard. Sometimes that information was always on the clipboard. Sometimes they had to go back to the doctor's office, back to that front window, get additional information. All that information had to be signed, had to be checked. And what I found out is a lot of people, when they went in there, whether they were under a certain amount of stress, like I am right now, or that they actually forgot their information. They didn't have the information that they needed. So I said, after about 2 years of looking at this, I said, there should be an easier way of doing it. And my thought was just to do it electronically through the web. Initially when I started out, there probably wasn't enough connectivity for all the patients to be able to do that. But now, as technology has improved, we're able to do that. As I said before, when we looked at what the initial problem is, it's that registration process. It's probably the most cumbersome process for not only patients, but also for physicians. When you look at it from a typical point of view, from a patient's perspective, when you go and actually make your appointment to see your doctor, he's either going to mail you out some information, or he's going to tell you, hey, your appointment's at 10 o'clock, I need you to come in 30 minutes early. So what time do you get there? 10 o'clock. That means that you're already, that doctor's office is already 30 minutes behind. You've got this information, this paperwork that you have to actually provide very quickly, and you have almost no time to do it with. So this is kind of how it started out with the way we developed Registered Patient. It's interesting that Spin's not here because I kind of wanted to use him. About 4 years ago, I came to Spin and asked him, I kind of showed him this idea. And he said, well, yeah, you know, it's a really great idea, but you don't have any IP or you don't have this. But I think it's a good idea. Let me let you show it to Richard Allen. So he introduced me to Richard, and if anybody doesn't know Richard, he's the CEO of Syngent. And I took this information to him, and he goes, wow, David, it looks really good. It looks kind of rough. I think you need to bootstrap it. So, but during that process, I would spend a month or two working on a business plan. I would take the product itself and actually improve it, and I would send it to him. And every few months, I'd send that information to him, and he'd give me some more advice, and he'd give me some more advice. And through the time, through that process, I kind of popped it out of my own back pocket. I paid pretty much for everything from the very beginning. I worked overtime as a nurse, making sure I was able to pay people. Initially, I was actually doing some of the programming. I actually can program at some level, but then it got too complicated, and I actually had to hire a CPO or programmer. So that's kind of how I started out with Registered Patient, and initially I think we're going to follow this whole process that they set up. And the first section is, go ahead and click that for me, Ron. Is the problem. As I said before, this is a really inefficient process. And the thing is, this process of registration encompasses a lot more than just getting information from the patient. The doctor's offices need to be able to code this information. They need to be able to see what your insurance information is. They need to be able to get paid. And the way they get paid is, through that insurance verification process. And then the other thing that we have to do is look at the referral process. Every single physician either gets a referral or refers out to another doctor. So when you go to your primary care doctor, you may end up having to go to an ENT. You may end up having to go to a neurologist, and that's a process that takes place every single day. So what we've done is we've tried to tackle this problem electronically. What we did is we created a Registered Patient. This is a screenshot of our website, but the thing that's important about this is an actual working model. We've had over 33,000 patients use it to register, using physicians that are already in place through Gainesville and Ocala. So it's not something that's just a concept, it actually works. If everybody I passed around some information that I'm going to actually be doing. We're having our first conference this weekend But if you look at the information and you see that's one of the things that they actually get. It's a PDF that's created from the registration process that they do. What we've really concentrated again is our core competencies. Initially, as I say, that registration process. That information has to be got to the physician somehow. And our goal is to make it so that the patients can do it from home in their living room instead of the waiting room at the doctor's office. The other one is, again, the insurance process. What we've done is we've gone out, we've teamed up with MDON, which is an insurance clearinghouse, as well as Availity. And so during that registration process, when you're at home, you actually fill out information, you type in your insurance information, and before you're done, we've already checked your insurance and have that available for the doctor to see. So maybe it's not a benefit for you, but at this point now he knows your co-payment, he knows what to charge you. Often you go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, what's your co-payment? And you go, 0. So we have looked at addressing this situation too, and that's all part of the single process of registration. And then the last part that we've done is a new process, which is the patient referral process. And again, as we say, all this information has to be able to go from one doctor to another. And the interesting thing that we've done to accomplish this is we actually have taken the data and we encrypt this data in a database and we map that data. There's no technology out there, there's no one out there doing that we're aware of besides us. When we look at our competitive advantages, we pretty much see that we only have about 4 people who are kind of in our same realm as us. If you look at what we do on all the yeses for a registered patient, there's several of them that no one else does. One of those is the EMR export. Some of them actually do it as a PDF. We also can do it as a PDF. We also can take and do it through an HL7 transfer, and that's kind of the industry standard. So we're not relying on whether we use what kind of EMR, which is electronic medical record, or PMS system, patient management system, that the physician actually uses. We also have online patient registration, insurance verification, and how many people here have actually gone to the doctor's office on the wrong day, or have not gone to the doctor's office because they didn't know their appointment? Raise your hand, anybody? It's not because you don't want to go, it's because you don't remember. So often those things get pushed so far in advance, so we've actually added a text messaging system to remind you of your actual appointment. Next, please. All right, now I'm going to introduce James to you. James is our marketing and sales director, and he's going to go over some of the financial stuff that we have going on. Thanks, James.
All right. As you can see from the slide before, it's kind of, there's not a whole lot of people in the space that we're in. And the space in the grand scheme of the medical industry isn't a big space, but it's still a $2 billion industry. And that's just, the U.S. market opportunity. We've actually had some medical tourism companies approach us to actually register their expatriates, abroad, so they can get, medical care in other countries like India and Colombia and Argentina. And it's safe to say that the global market opportunity is double what the U.S. market opportunity is. So revenue streams, it's kind of funny. On my first day, I came in and David asked me, he said, can you come up with a sales and marketing and revenue stream kind of idea before our next board meeting? And I said, sure, when's the next board meeting? He said, day after tomorrow. So, but since then I've tweaked it a little bit. I've got to figure it out a little bit better. So we have basically 4 revenue streams right now that we kind of focus on. Now, I can't tell you which one's going to be our biggest moneymaker until we reach that critical mass where we can actually implement some of these things. Off the bat, the 2 that are actually going to make us money are the white labeling and the subscriptions. Now, the subscriptions, I don't think David's mentioned it yet, but price isn't really an issue with our clients when it comes to our system because it's $99 a month. No matter how many patients you register, it's $99 a month per physician in your practice. Now, if you compare that to an average EMR that can cost upwards of $200,000 for a practice, it's a pretty good deal. But with subscriptions, there's 700,000 physicians in the United States. If we get 0.5% of those physicians using our system at $99 a month, you're talking $3.5 million a month. And that's 0.5%. And that's not unheard of if you think of eClinicalWorks has 40,000 physicians using their system. And their system is $50,000, $60,000. Data sales. Now, We're not going to be collecting patients' data and selling it to the highest bidder. What we're talking about is data that we collect through the registration process on cross-sections of people. It's nameless, faceless data. If the government comes to us and says, can you identify cancer clusters? Yes, we can do that. Can you tell us what age of people are getting type 2 diabetes, more often now? Yes, we can do that. So any type of information we collect, we can, pull any kind of queries on it through our database and basically come up with any kind of statistics that you want based on those people. Advertising sales. Now, advertising sales is where it's going to get kind of fun. How many people notice in Gmail when you're reading your email, you've got ads that are kind of contextual to what you and your friend are talking about on the side there? So that's kind of the route we're taking, where if you're a patient and you're filling out your form and you put in your medications that you're taking Prevacid, well, once you get through that form and you click submit, you're going to get a confirmation email saying that it's been submitted, reminding you when your appointment is. But then it's also going to have a coupon or a little flyer in there you can print out saying take this to your doctor and get a free trial of Aciphex, which is a competing medication. On the same token, we can actually advertise and make offers to the physicians and their staff members, because everybody's got a unique login. So if, say, just an office staff person, the girl that makes the reservations or the appointments, if she logs in, we can actually show her some kind of deal or some kind of offer specifically for that type of person for 40% off at Scrubs.com or something like that. So the possibilities are really endless as far as what we can do with this advertising platform. And the nice thing about it is David and Andy, our CTO, had the foresight to go ahead and build this in. So it's sitting there just waiting for us to reach that critical mass of users. And white labeling. Like I said before, that's going to be one of our first sources of revenue along with subscription. We actually already have, for those of you who don't know what white labeling is, it's when a big company wants to use your service and would rather just pay you to use it rather than build it themselves. We've actually already got a deal with a company called Smart Health Exchange, which is a large EMR company. And rather than spend the time to build a system like ours, they're just going to pay us to be their registration system. And we've actually started a pilot program with one of the largest hospital management corporations in the country. We're going to be the pilot program in their flagship hospital, which is huge. I mean, that's a big deal for us. What's the next one? And now we're going to go back to David, now that he's had a breather, and he's going to tell you how exactly we're going to grow and some of the other things.
So how many people here are on Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff? Well, we know that social media is a huge opportunity for us. So one of the things that we did is we put into that referral process, the way for us to grow is actually through the referral process itself. We all know that every single one of these doctors and doctors' offices, they all know each other. They've been dealing with each other for years and years. They either know each other from the operating room, or this one person's been sending this information to this next person previously. They did it by fax, they did it by telephone. Well, what we're able to do is we actually are able to do it through our system. They can electronically talk to each other, they can send data back and forth with each other in our secure system. And what this process does is that it shows it, so when you sign up one person, you send a referral to make it easy. Now you don't have to fax it anymore, it's basically a push of a button. We've done a lot of things internally in our system that allows us for doctors to literally personalize their forms, send referrals just with one push of a button, being able to email and contact, and they actually make connections just kind of like you would in Facebook. So they are able to create their own network, and that information only goes to those people in their network. It also gives them an opportunity to promote their practice. But as I said before, we've had 33,000 users that actually have used us to do the registration process. We have 16 providers that we're doing our initial beta testing with. We just came to our development. We finished it back in the end of June, and we have 7 practices that are using it.